How many people do you know who struggle with their health? Chances are, whether they show it or not, most of the people in your life do. And chances are, you're one of them. Whether you're dealing with anxiety, depression, endometriosis, acne, eczema, autoimmune, thyroid, Lyme, brain fog, fatigue, or any other symptom or condition, you're far from alone. Living with symptoms has become the new normal. So no more guessing games. It's time to get answers. Welcome to the Medical Medium Podcast. I'm Anthony William. We're talking about plastics, microplastics. Now, before we get deep into this, keep in mind that you can sit on the internet and look up plastic all day long. And you can go down a deep rabbit hole of plastics, microplastic pollution, and everything beyond. But this episode isn't about that. This episode is about you. You. How does it affect you and your body? This episode is about plastic inside your bloodstream, inside your organs, and what does that really mean? And how bad is it really? Plastic on the wall. Who's the fairest of them all? Plastic everywhere. How bad is it really, and how do we fare? Fasten your seatbelts for this episode, because yes, plastic is bad. But be careful. Don't run from a bee and off a cliff. I know there's a lot of bees around here, I know. Don't worry about it. Stop getting all excited. Don't swat it. Yeah, yep, there's another. Okay, there's another one. There's 3 bees, but that doesn't mean anything. Just push your sandwich over to this area and take your drink and put it over here. Where are you going? Wait, calm down. Where are you going? Wait, you're running? Hey, wait, there's a hill over there. Just look out. Plastics are everywhere. Hard to run from it. Plastic forks, spoons, knives, utensils, bags, containers, cups, kitchen supplies. Plastic furniture, plastic chairs, office chairs, plastic tables, plastic tabletops. And even the mic I'm talking into right now is made up of plastic. There is so much plastic surrounding people almost at all times. In so many different ways, it would take an entire show just listing items made up of plastic, and that show would be 10 hours long. And it wouldn't be a full, exhausted, comprehensive list. There's even plastic in our clothing, and of course, plastics in pharmaceutical drugs, and plastics in everything we eat. Everything has plastic in it through contamination. It has already happened. Plastic has leached around the world, in all our waterways, in all our oceans. One particular ocean is very, very filled with plastic. Let's get into that right now to start with. The West Coast dumping nightmare. That's right, the dumping nightmare. Great garbage patch. Bigger than Texas and growing. It was bigger than Texas 10 years ago. It's where all of the garbage on the West Coast is dumped, day in and day out. You see the barges, they go out filled with garbage, plastic, lots of plastic, tons and tons and tons of plastic, hundreds of tons, more than hundreds of tons, millions of tons, and more than millions, billions. That's right, billions of tons of plastic and garbage dumped out into the West Coast Ocean, the Pacific Ocean, building up into a nucleus on its own, a massive toxic living organism. The latest catastrophe in LA, Los Angeles, California, which are the fires and the Palisades where homes have been burned down to the ground, it's devastating. But what's coming to the west coast of California at some point is a massive tsunami. It's not happening today, but inevitably it is going to happen. And when it does, it's going to carry something with it more than just water. It's going to carry billions of tons of plastic, old plastic, from many decades ago all the way up to recently. The tsunami is not going to be a normal size. It's going to be extremely large and thick. It's not going to be just water. Nature is going to shift. The tsunami is going to turn into something far different, even if the earthquake isn't massive. The Great Garbage Patch is going to retain force. It's going to sustain that force. And when it comes rolling in, it's going to be like nothing anybody has ever seen on this planet. Not just because of California or the plates or the fault. Far more is at stake. It's going to be the weight of the trash bin. It's going to be the weight of the Great Garbage Patch. Once it moves, it won't stop. It's going to accumulate a tremendous amount of water, pressure, and power beyond anything we've ever seen. And when it comes crashing down, it's going to basically barf and vomit all that plastic, all that garbage onto the earth. And Hawaii is not going to be freed from this. The islands are going to be buried in plastic as well. Keep in mind, nothing can live in the Great Garbage Patch. And sea life that's actually interrupted, damaged, or killed or destroyed because of the Great Garbage Patch are destroyed, and they're on the outside of the Great Garbage Patch. They're not in it. Nothing can exist in the Great Garbage Patch. The Great Pacific Garbage Patch is a prime example of abuse put upon the earthly mother, this earth, this living earth. The oceans are the earthly mother's blood, the bloodstream. The land is the earthly mother's body. And we as humans are greatly affected. There's plastic sediment on the ocean floors. There's plastic rolling in on the beaches. And I'm not just talking about plastic bottles. There's plastic in fish, but there's plastic everywhere. There's plastic falling out of the sky. There's plastic in the air. One thing that occurs that people don't really talk about or really know about is plastic row covers. Row covers are something that farms use, conventional farms and alternative farms, organic farms. Row covers protect the plants. They put them down, they grow the plants in between them, and eventually at the end of the season, they gather up the row covers and they discard them. But the row covers are just not discarded, they're burned. And when they're burned, it goes into the air. No filtration, no filters on the burning. It's not going into a burn plant where there's a silo trying to capture some of the emissions. The burning goes everywhere, but it's not just a few row covers. It's billions of tons. Over time, trillions of tons. Over the years, trillions and trillions of tons of plastic burns in every state across the country. That plastic goes in the air and we breathe it. We breathe it in. It goes on our own crops that we grow. It falls on our gardens. It falls on our fruit trees. It falls on the little potted plants that you have outside. It falls on everything, your deck, your porch, your lawn, your grass. And we walk in it, we lay in it, we play in it, we get it on us, we breathe it in when it's falling out of the sky, and plastic enters us. Takes us to another area, chemtrails. Chemtrails aren't just chemicals from chemical factories loaded up into the planes like we've always talked about here at the Medical Medium, information base, but more than that, more than just toxic chemicals and metals. What's dumping out of the planes are liquid plastics, and we inhale them and we eat them. These are sources of plastics far worse than a plastic container or a plastic freezer bag that you put something in, like some bananas, and put it into your freezer, or some kind of plastic container that's on a machine that you make your food with. Either way, we're getting affected by plastic, contaminated and exposed by plastics way more than some of the plastics we deal with or live with around our own house or apartment or dwelling. Medical Medium Information always talked about plastics and microplastics. Talked about how plastics get into our liver, they get into our bloodstream, they get into our brain, affect our neurotransmitter chemicals, affect our electrical impulses. Plastics can be a problem. But the irony is, it's not really plastic that's the problem. It's what's in the plastic. It's not just pure plastic. Plastics aren't just made without any other chemicals. Oftentimes, fungicides are mixed in plastics when they're forming, and it's not uncommon for toxic heavy metals to be in plastics. So really, when plastic is leaching, or you're getting plastics in your system, it's toxic heavy metals that are the problem. And people don't know this. They're just thinking microplastics and plastics. They're not thinking about toxic heavy metals. Now, even with this said, plastics that we handle in our hands aren't really contaminating us. Plastics around our food aren't really contaminating us. Plastic around our water is not really contaminating us. We're not having a big problem because of those plastics. Those plastics aren't holding us down, aren't taking us down, aren't making us really sick. It's the environmental plastics falling out of the sky, burning plastics everywhere. Another thing that happens all around the United States and other places too around the world is burning. Lots of people burn their plastic and burn their garbage right in their own backyards. If you're drinking water out of a plastic bottle or eating something or snacking on something in a plastic container, that is not the scary thing. That is not the biggest problem at all. Having a frozen bag of food or a freezer bag with bananas in it in the freezer is not something people should run from. They shouldn't scream and run as if that's the worst thing that's ever happened. There's plastic getting into us through pharmaceuticals. There's plastic getting into us through the air. There's plastic getting into us through the water itself. If you go to your favorite restaurant or your favorite coffee shop and you order a coffee or a tea, maybe an iced coffee, anything of the sort, even the ice cubes will have some plastic in it. Plastic will be in that water, even if it's a famous brand, a famous chain or food chain. We will get plastics into our bloodstream just consuming whatever that is, not the plastic container that's holding the beverage or the food. We'll get a little touch from that, but really it's going to be in the water anyway. And the highest quality filtration systems are never in restaurants. They're never in the famous coffee shops. Businesses don't invest in that kind of water filtration. Now, besides the air we breathe, and the water on the planet itself, like the oceans, the lakes, the reservoirs, the wells, the water systems. Besides those places being where we get plastics from, more so than any bottle of water you're drinking from, or plastic container you're eating from, or plastic bottle that's holding something, far more than any of that is your car. That's right, your car. Your car is one of the greatest places we get plastics in our system from every day. And there's a reason for that. Everything inside the car we touch is plastic. Pretty darn close if it's not. And even in the engine and surrounding the engine, there's plastics that get hot. We breathe it in. You park a car in a garage, you get out of that car, you're smelling hot plastic coming right off the engine, right off the firewall. Plastic is everywhere in a car, and it heats up. When the sun hits the dashboard, it slowly outgasses plastic. Plastic outgasses inside cars. And the plastic parts like dashboards, etc., that are in cars are not the purest forms of plastic. They're what's called dirty plastic, and they're in every single car. We breathe plastic in the air in our car. It's coming out of the vents. When the air is blowing out of our car vents, whether it's heat, hot air, plastic is in that air. The vents are made of plastic. Plastic is everywhere inside the car. We're closed off inside the car, surrounded by plastic air, and we don't know it. This is one of the other great places we get plastic inside of our bodies, our livers, our bloodstreams, our brains. It's plastic contamination and exposure in the car. Another place we get lots of plastic exposure in a great way is summertime, and it's suntan lotion. Not because suntan lotion has a lot of plastic in it. It does have some, even the best ones. But it's not just that. It's what the suntan lotion touches. As it's on our body and we rub against plastic, the suntan lotions tend to absorb plastic, pull plastic into itself, which eventually pulls plastic into the body. Suntan lotions, summertime fun, floaties, different devices that are plastic that float on water, absorb straight into our skin. Plastic that was baking in the sun, heating up in the sun, causing it to leach much easier, even without a suntan lotion on. if you get into a raft or some type of floating device that's plastic, or you're wearing plastic shoes, you're wearing plastic sandals, plastic flip-flops that have plastic in them, plastic straps. They heat up in the sun and they get into our bloodstream. Plastic everywhere. Where do we run to? And is it fair? No, it's not fair. Not fair at all. So where does plastic go when it enters our body? It goes into the liver, and our liver sees it as waste, and it stores it along with everything else that goes into our liver. Thousands and thousands of chemicals every single month, every single year. Our livers store it up, protect it from getting to our heart, our brain. And what our liver can't catch in time goes to our brain, goes to our heart, goes to other organs. Plastics even go to our endocrine system. And our liver tries to protect that. Toxic plastics going into our endocrine glands. Meanwhile, plastics can hinder the immune system. If a large amount of plastic is in the bloodstream, getting into the organs, getting into the glands, getting in the way of the immune system. But it takes a lot of plastic residue in order to do that. And depending on what kind of plastics, what are they? Are they plastics from the inside of a car, which are dirty plastics? They could have toxic heavy metals in them and other solvents. What other kind of plastics and what was mixed into them, like a fungicide? If you're somebody and you're worried about plastics and you're running from plastics, keep in mind you could be running from a bee and jump off a cliff. A plastic bag you're carrying your food in from the grocery store, or a plastic freezer bag you throw some bananas in, or a plastic mixer of some kind where you're making a smoothie is not the worst thing in the world. Those types of plastics that get into our bloodstream, even on a micro level, can leave the body fairly easily, especially if you're doing something good for yourself. A prime example of running from a bee into a bus is copper containers, copper thermoses, copper cups, metal containers, steel containers, stainless steel containers, alloy containers that you're drinking water out of because you don't want plastic. One of the fads and trends out there is to put water in metal bottles and containers. So people are drinking out of metal containers and metal water bottles now. Now, there's nothing better than glass. Glass is always the best, no matter what. Better than plastic, but plastic is still better than metal. Still better than metal containers of any kind, both copper or alloy or stainless steel or any other kind of metal. Metals of any kind leach into water, then leach into us. We drink it, and that residue on a micro metal level gets into our body. Far worse than any kind of microplastics. If I'm somewhere and somebody offers me a bottle of water in plastic or a bottle of water in some type of metal container, I will grab the bottle of water in plastic any day because it's easier to get out of your system. It's easier to detox. It's easier to cleanse out of you. And it's less problematic. Even if a lot of microplastics get into somebody, a lot of plastic residue get into somebody through all kinds of different ways and means, it's still easier to get rid of, heal, cleanse, and restore your immune system. Your immune cells have an easier time gobbling up microplastic any day, even if it hinders the immune cells a little bit, than gobbling up metal of any kind. I will grab the bottle of water in the plastic bottle any day of the year, anytime. The trend of metal containers such as copper containers, copper thermoses, copper cups is by far the worst retaliation against plastic. Not only are people wrong about needing copper from these copper implements, these copper tools, these copper devices, these copper containers, copper cups, not only is that misinformation, ridiculous information that we need that toxic copper in our system, well, it's also a retaliation against plastic and plastic bottles and plastic cups. People who sell copper items, such as copper thermoses and copper cups, often talk about how you're not getting plastic in you, so it's a healthy alternative to using plastic. plastic bottles holding your water, plastic containers. So a big sales pitch is, well, this is better for you than plastic. You don't want microplastic in your system. Meanwhile, you end up with microcopper in your system. Far more damaging to the neurotransmitters, far more damaging to your liver, a eczema and psoriasis nightmare for many reasons, medical medium information. You don't want industrialized copper going in your system just because you're avoiding a little bit of plastic. Prime example of running from a bee into a bus. You can get rid of plastics in your system just as fast as they come into your system and more. If you're doing the right things, you can exit plastic out of your body faster than it's entering. But copper is another story. Copper takes time, takes energy, takes a lot of work. It's a toxic heavy metal. That's right, copper is. And people are actually using those copper cups every single day and thermoses and containers, thinking they're giving themselves something back that they need inside their body, even something nutritious. They're told that they need the copper. People are copper deficient, which is incorrect. Another problem with metal containers of all kinds to store water in, or metal cans and metal containers that people actually put water in them themselves, or it's even bottled that way and sold that way, is, depending on the water, what kind of water? Hard water, soft water, what's in the water, what kind of mineral content? Is it spring water? Is it some other type of water? Can leach the metal faster and harsher. People don't realize the water they're putting into their metal container that they're taking with them on a hike or exercising or somewhere else to work and they're drinking out of is drawing more metal out of those containers than they realize and going into their body. So fancy new metal water bottles and water containers will be leaching metal into the water. For plastics to build up inside the body and get really toxic and really problematic, you would have to be exposing yourself to a lot of plastic. And some of the biggest exposures are through the air. Scented candles, breathing in a lot of plastic fumes. Yes, in scented candles, there are plastics in there. Not just in scented candles, but also in plug-ins, air fresheners. There's also plastic in there too. And breathing it in every day, all day long, it's a great way to get more plastic into our lungs. That's the fast track. Anything we're inhaling. If you're getting into a hot car, open up the windows, air it out. Don't just rely on the air conditioning. Turn on the air conditioner in the car for sure, but give it a little time with the windows down as well. Let some air get in there. Release the outgas of all the plastic on the dashboard that got heated up. You don't want to just breathe it all in. And then during the holidays, the fake logs. Yes, the fake logs. Chemical treated fake plastic logs. There's so much plastic in those. But hey, if you're not burning them in your own fireplace, so what? All you got to do is step out the door. And if it's a cold night, there are people burning those fake logs for miles. And if you're somebody that cooks out on the grill, look out with plastic utensils. So many people use plastic utensils on the grill. Yes, the ones that can handle some heat. But what they don't realize is that when you're using them on the grill, they're melting. You can't see them melt. You can't really smell them melting, but they are. And those fumes are going directly into the sinuses and directly into the brain. And look out if you see anybody burning anything. Because people, when they burn fire pits, or they burn something in their backyard, or they burn something in a garbage can, a metal garbage can, there's always some plastic in there. There always is. It's not like somebody's like, well, let's keep this fire pure. Let's not put anything in here that we shouldn't. People throw everything in their homemade fires and fire pits. So you got some neighbors and somebody's burning something, just don't assume it's straight wood, because it never is. Doesn't even matter if they're roasting marshmallows. They're always burning something they shouldn't burn. They're always burning wallboard, treated wood, tabletops, all kinds of different pieces of furniture, and even garbage. They just start turning into pyros, and they walk into the house and they start grabbing things they think they don't need anymore, and they just throw it on top of the fire. And everybody breathes it in for miles. If you're a neighbor, you're going to breathe it in. and that's plastic. A lot more other things too, but that's plastic going straight into your lungs, straight into your organs, your liver, straight into your brain. And right now, we're heading into the spring. The United States, everybody burns. Row covers are burning and all the different farms everywhere. People are burning the brush. People are burning garbage, spring cleaning, and the air is filled with plastic. That's the worst way we get it. We receive it into our bodies. It's through breathing it in. It's not drinking out of a water bottle that's plastic. Plastic is in the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. Plastic is in the air. It's in the skies coming out of chemtrails. Plastic is being burned everywhere around the globe, being released into the air. Plastic is falling out of the sky. Plastic is in the water that we bathe in. Plastic is everywhere. It's almost as if human beings are turning into plastic. But as bad as plastic is, it's not as bad as pathogens. It's not as bad as Epstein-Barr and cytomegalovirus and HHV6, HHV7. It's not as bad as shingles. Some varieties of shingles can make people just want to end their lives. They break out with shingles in their throat and in their mouth and in their ear and in their eye. It's brutal. Some people have 2 or 3 Epstein-Barrs. Some people just live with viral eruptions, HSV1, 2, and they suffer greatly. Severe chronic fatigue and brain inflammation and cranial nerve inflammation, neurotoxins released by all these pathogens, all this mercury neurotoxin that keeps people down, and they get the aches and the pains and the tics and the spasms, and they get the severe fatigue and the burning legs, and they get the restless leg syndrome and the ringing in the ears, the tinnitus, the dizziness, the balance issues, the tightness of the chest, tightness of the throat, the dizziness in their eyes where they feel like they're on a boat and they can't walk. They just feel sick. People don't feel good. They have migraines. Their head hurts. Their neck hurts. Their back hurts. Their feet hurts. Plantar fasciitis. All kinds of different issues with their feet and their legs and their back. People suffer out there. And plastic isn't totally in the way. It's annoying. It's not great. It's a trigger if there's too much of it, but it does leave the body if you know what to do. If you know how to care for yourself, you can get plastic out faster than it's coming in. But if you're not getting any plastic out and it's just going in, and sitting in the liver, sitting in the bloodstream, gets into the brain, and nothing's getting it out because you're not doing enough to get it out. It's just sitting there, it's festering, it's causing a problem, then it's not good. Can fill up the cells, can get into the endocrine glands, and it can cause trouble if we become that much plastic-based. If we're not plant-based and animal-based, we can be plastic-based. We can be animal-based and plant-based and be plastic-based too. It's really difficult for a lot of people. They're battling a lot of triggers. They already have a lot of struggles and different things to worry about. Plastic shouldn't be that thing where we fear it and we're scared. Because when we do the right things for ourselves, we can get plastic out. Too much plastic weakens up the immune system. Too much plastic, we might get a trigger. Too much plastic, our brain cells get filled with it. Too much plastic, and we can have a problem. But plastics, not toxic heavy metals. Sure, there can be some metals in plastics, but it's still not like toxic heavy metals. And plastics aren't like pathogens either. So when it comes down to removing plastics, in my first book, Medical Medium New Edition, there is an anti-plastics tea in that book. Very effective. Now, if you don't do the whole tea, that's fine. You can just do part of it. It's that powerful when it comes down to plastics. Plastics get easily removed when you use olive leaf. Plastics can easily get removed when you use lemon balm, fenugreek, and mullein leaf. If you put them all together, fenugreek, lemon balm, mullein leaf, olive leaf, you got a powerful weapon against plastics in the body. You can remove plastics with those 4 herbs. Now you can use the tinctures. Make sure there's no alcohol in them, natural flavors, citric acid. Make sure it's a really good company, a good brand. Check out medicalmedium.com for the best when it comes down to olive leaf, lemon balm, and so forth. You can also make a tea. Make sure your tea is high quality, doesn't have metals in it, other problems like plastics. They could be in herbal teas. Look out there. But if you get fenugreek, lemon balm, mullein leaf, olive leaf, put it together in a tea, you're removing plastics. And you can do something as simple as a teaspoon of it mixed, or a tablespoon. And you can do that every day, a little hot water. If you want to add some lemon and honey, you're welcome to. Ask your doctor what's right for you. Ask your doctor if it's okay if you can do that. And keep in mind, to get rid of plastics, you can use the HMDS. You can use the heavy metal detox. You can use medical medium morning cleanse, and plastics leave the body. You can use the medical medium mono cleanse, the 28-day cleanse. The medical medium 369s help to remove plastics. The 369 Advance removes plastic. Keep in mind that even lemon water in the morning, 16 to 32 ounces of water, squeeze a half a lemon right in there or a whole lemon. That alone helps to push plastics out that the liver wants out, that the liver was packaging up all night long and put by the curbside. So that lemon water flushed it out. And one of the most powerful tools to getting rid of plastic every single day as plastic is coming in is celery juice. 16 ounces on an empty stomach every single morning, and you're getting rid of plastics. 32 ounces every single day, you're getting rid of plastic all day long. If you're somebody that thinks you're filled with plastic, that you got a lot in your system, keep your immune system strong. Get some B12 in you, some zinc, get some vitamin C in you, get some micro C in you. Make sure you're taking care of yourself. Build up your immune system. Check out the Medical Medium book series. Go to medicalmedium.com. You can get information right there for free to help you heal. Show your doctor this podcast episode and ask your doctor what's right for you. Many blessings, and God bless you. The plastic demon doesn't care if you become what it wants, a plastic sponge, soaking it all up until it makes you pop like a plastic bag, or your skin becomes hagged and sags, and then you get a plastic pinup to keep looking young. But there are easy things that can be done to rid the plastic faster than it comes. I see the water, so blue, so pretty. Look at the sun. It shines over the water as it glitters of blue. They look majestic. But what about the poor eels? They crawl among the plastic sediment, the plastic waste floor. See how far your eyesight can travel. There's an evil sight far away in the water, a massive pileup touching the ocean floor. God help us someday. I know what you're thinking, Lord. There will be a great shift. The ocean will lift. Trillions of tons of plastic will come to life and birth, dominating the skyline and passing the shore. What could make man do something so careless and sad? It's greed, oh Lord. It's greed that plays garbage hide and seek, with Satan behind man polluting all the more. When it comes to the healing, plastic leaves if you're listening. Your body exceeds, and the plastic recedes with ease.
Original published medical medium information gets stolen and poached by podcast doctors, social media doctors, influencers, and medical clinics. Medical medium information has never yet been proven wrong by medical science and research. Instead, the opposite. only proven right and then taken from medical medium published material and used in the conventional and alternative health communities. Medical medium information continually sets the stage for medical science to understand chronic illness better. If you choose to share or use the original, unique content from the Medical Medium podcast, books, or Medical Medium social media, please cite where this information comes from, so others who see and learn of this information have a chance to know where it all originates, to give them an opportunity to heal, so they don't end up losing years of their life searching for answers like so many have before them. The Medical Medium information here on this podcast doesn't come from broken science, interest groups, medical funding with strings attached, botched research, lobbyists, internal kickbacks, persuaded belief systems, private panels of influencers, health field payoffs, trendy traps, or gathered bits and pieces of gimmicky confusion. Because chronic illness is exploding like never before in our modern day history, it takes a greater force than us down here. It takes a helping hand from above. Medical medium information has street cred. It's an organic movement of countless people around the world healing. More healing stories of real people not being paid to tell their life-changing experiences of rising out of the ashes of sickness and entering into the light of full recovery, getting their lives back and finally healing when nothing else in the world of health could move the needle and get them better. The information on this podcast is not man-made. It comes from above, from a higher source. Whatever you believe in, whether God, the universe, the light, or the creator, or if you believe in nothing at all, that we're just floating through space together on this rock. Know that the information you hear on this podcast is separate from all the other noise out there. It comes from a different place, a pure, untampered with, advanced, clean, uncorrupted, original, primary source, a higher source, spirit of compassion.